How to get married in Philippines and how to bring your Filipino spouse to Slovenia. Let's see. So, just before marriage, you also have to obtain some documents in Slovenia. The first two are certificate of single status and birth certificate. Both documents should be certified by apostille seal, that's like the international certification of documents, and both documents should be translated into English. Translation should be done by the official court translator. So please check list of those translators. Then you will need certificate of no impediment to enter into marriage. This certificate is issued by the Embassy of the Republic of Slovenia in Manila. So to obtain this document, you have to provide copies of those documents that I just mentioned, and you have to provide photocopies of passport, so of your passport and of your spouse. This certificate is issued only at the embassy and can be collected in person only at the embassy of Republic of Slovenia in Manila, in Makati area. I also have to mention that before the wedding, you have to do the pre-marriage counseling seminar. It is absolutely mandatory, and I strongly suggest you to check when and where it is possible to attend, because it is probably not available every day, so please check it. After providing all the documents, including this pre-marriage counseling seminar, you have to wait 10 days, because only after 10 days marriage license is issued. And please keep in mind that this marriage license is valid only for 100 days. If you do not get married in 100 days, you have to collect the documents again, and of course, you have to provide those documents again. After marriage, well, after marriage, you will have to collect a lot of documentation that will be as a basis for application for Schengen Visa D, that's long-term visa. Speaking in general, it is not very complicated, but it is very time consuming to collect all those documents. And I would like to suggest that you authorize your spouse with special power of attorney. You can do this at the notary in Philippines. So she will be able to collect the documents in the case you will be absent from Philippines. It could be very helpful. And when you go to the notary to give her this special power of attorney, please do not forget to provide photocopy of your passport and sign this photocopy 3 times. It is necessary to give this to the notary. After marriage, what can you do the first thing after marriage? Speaking of first step that you can do in Slovenia. Well, first step could be the registration of marriage in Slovenia. And it goes like this. Firstly, you have to apply for a marriage certificate on international form. I would suggest you to ask for to expedite procedure, because in this case it would take a few weeks instead of a few months. So yeah, it is a long process. So how I did it? I firstly reported to the civil registry office and I asked to expedite procedure. Then I went to PSA in Quezon City. After a few weeks, PSA issued the marriage certificate, but my wife had to certify it with apostille at DFA, Department of Foreign Affairs. So the wife later sent this document to me to Slovenia, where I provided the court translation into Slovenian language, and collecting this document, I was finally able to register the marriage at administrative unit. What kind of documents do you need for visa application? Well, definitely, firstly, you will have to fill up the application for a long-term visa with purpose of reunification of family. Spouse will have to provide new photo and new passport if he or she changed surname. You will also have to provide extract from the Slovenian marriage register. We just mentioned about that. And of course, there are many other documents, also certificate of no criminal record from the Philippines. You get this certificate at NBI. And yes, it also has to be certified by apostille, which you get at DFA. It is very important to give proofs of sufficient funds to support yourself and your family. Those funds has to be regular and sufficient. The definition says that those funds must amount to at least the basic amount of the minimum income in Slovenia per family member. I do not know exactly what it means, so I strongly encourage you to check because I do not want to give you wrong information. But of course, it depends on how many family members do you have. It is also necessary to mention that those funds must be provided for the entire period of validity of the visa, which can be issued for maximum 1 year. And what can be provided as a proof? Well, it can be payrolls, it can be bank statements, it can be various certificates that proves that you received dividend or any other income that must be sufficient. Going forward, so you also need to provide health insurance policy, which must be valid in all Schengen countries. It must be valid for the whole duration of the visa validity, and it has to cover medical expenses up to 30,000 euros minimum. And it also has to cover repatriation, so that's return to Philippines if needed. You also have to provide letter of guarantee that you have to certify it, but this time you don't have to certify by apostille. It is efficient to certify it at your administrative unit. In addition to that, both spouses has to sign the declaration on dependent family members. That's actually a statement that you give the information if you have to support any other family member, like kids or parents or maybe someone else, and how many people do you have to support. It is important because they will calculate how much sufficient funds you have to support all family members. You will also need to provide a statement by the owner of the real estate that he allows accommodation for you and your spouse for a period of 1 year. It will not be necessary if you are the actual owner of the real estate, of course, but if you are renting the apartment and paying the rent, you will have to provide this statement. For visa application, you will also have to provide booking of plane ticket and other supporting documents are strongly recommended. Everything that would act as a proof of your relationship, such as group photos, shared documents, possible testimonies, and similar. Don't forget that the embassy can request any additional documentation and can ask you or your spouse to do the interview with them. Well, the deadline for decision is 3 months, but I think that if you provide all the documents and everything is all right, it can take less than 3 months. What you should do after obtaining the visa? Well, you definitely have to get new certificate of new criminal record from the Philippines, and again you have to certify it with apostille. That's one thing. The second thing is that the spouse must pass the guidance and counseling program at the CFO, and this certificate must be presented before boarding to the airplane, because otherwise your spouse will not be able to get to airplane and will not be able to leave the Philippines. And you also have to bring letter of guarantee, which will be given back to you by the embassy when the visa is issued. So don't forget those documents before leaving Philippines. What can you do after you arrive to Slovenia? The first thing is to report to the police station within 3 days of arrival. And after that, you can apply for temporary residence and work permit at administrative unit in the area where you live with your Slovenian spouse. And again, you will need to provide certificate of no criminal record, certified with apostille, and you will have to provide payrolls for the last 6 months. So yes, again, you will have to provide proof that you have sufficient funds to support your family members. When this temporary residence and work permit is issued, you can register your temporary residence in Slovenia, and you can start arranging other things, like you can ask for Slovenian tax number, you can register into Slovenian public health insurance, you can register to employment service, you can ask to attend language courses, and so on and so on.